I love this pic, and I wanted to point out, it might be hard to see, but at the bottom is the URL for the PowerPoint deck that I'm going to go through tonight. And also my website is there, stevesouders.com. And in fact, if you go to stevesouders.com, in the upper right corner will be a link to the slides. And all the talks that I've done and all the slides I've used are available through there. So that might be a good URL to remember, stevesouders.com. I want to mention two more. Usually these come up during the course of my presentation, but tonight's presentation is a little different because it's really polished. So these other URLs won't come up, so I'm going to mention them now. One is webpagetest.org. It's even more important to remember than stevesouders.com, and it's a great testing tool from a guy, Pat Meenan, who started it at AOL, and now he's at Google. And the other URL, the third URL I want you to remember is perfplanet.com. And that, again, is even more important than stevesouders.com to remember. It's a RSS aggregator run by Stoyan Stefanov, a former member of the Yahoo Exceptional Performance team, and YSlow developer, who's now at Facebook. And it includes blogs like mine. So if you remember perfplanet.com and subscribe to that, you'll get my blogs plus blog posts from about 40 or 50 other gurus in web performance. So how many people here touch JavaScript on a daily basis? So I think this is going to be a good talk and it's going to be entertaining. I've heard the speaker's really good. So we're all familiar with the adage, a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Now, in computer parlance, we call that a single point of failure, SPOF for short. And here's the canonical diagram of a single point of failure from Wikipedia, the source of all information. And we see that, we can have an application running on a server, a web server presumably, and we can have these clients, presumably browsers, and to do some, balancing and other architectural features, we'll run that through a router. And in this case, there's only one router. And sure enough, if this router goes down, if it doesn't work anymore, or it gets fried, then the whole architecture is down. Now, I think it's kind of comical that they only have one application server and they didn't put the red circle around that as well. So I didn't put the red circle there. I thought I did, and I was going to copy and paste it over on the application server because I pulled this image about 4 months ago, and I realized the red circle was burnt into the image from Wikipedia. So both of those are a single point of failure. If either one of those goes down, the whole system is out, right? And that's really bad. And 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 10 years ago even, big websites would still have single points of failure, and we all learned our lessons. And now, unless you run a mom and pop site like mine, you've eliminated all these single point of failures. So people who do the web as a business are really good at this single point of failure stuff when it comes to hardware. But they're not so good at it when it comes to software, and we'll see that. Here's an example. Does anyone here work at Business Insider? They must be owned by some media company. I don't know who it is. I should have done more research. So I can look at this page and I can spot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 likely single points of failure. Anyone want to guess? I'm sorry? Yeah, but visually, we can see those external scripts. The answer was correct, external scripts. We can see those visually on the page. We have an ad here at the top. JavaScript is really awesome. It's a way that one company, one server can talk to another server without ever having to share any kind of API or anything like that. So that's a really nice way to get ads into the page. So we have a couple ads in the page. We also have these third-party snippets. A Facebook like button, a Twitter button. I don't know why there isn't a Google Plus button there. So I was paid to say that. In fact, every 2 weeks I'm paid to say that. And so, it's not obvious to most people that these are single points of failure in the page. But anyone who's looked behind that and read stuff like my books and my blog know that they are. So let's take a peek at that and try to figure out why these are single points of failure. The gentleman in the audience mentioned that they have external scripts behind them. So what's the issue with external scripts? How about a little shout out for the background photos in these slides? Aren't they good? Because scripts block. Get it? They block. Okay, so it only gets worse. So synchronous scripts block all the elements that follow them in the page. And what do I mean by a synchronous script? I mean a script that you do the typical way. Script tag, script source equals main.js, close script. That's a synchronous script. It means that no other JavaScript in the page can be executed until that is downloaded, parsed, and executed. And then in addition, browsers have this other behavior that once they reach that script tag, that's an external script, they won't render anything or parse anything else in the HTML document. So why do they do that? Well, this JavaScript might do a document.write that inserts an image or a div or a paragraph or a list or something right here. If the browser charged ahead and started laying out the rest of the page, and then finally that script came back and it did some document.write stuff, the browser might have to backtrack too much, and it might not get it right. It could be really confusing to figure out the layout. It is really confusing to figure out the layout of the page. And if you've laid out a lot of the page and then you have to go back and change it, or it would be really janky or flashy if you laid out the page and then all of a sudden you went back up ahead and you stuffed a bunch of stuff back in there. It would be a jarring experience, right? So browsers today just stop. And there's a lot of inconsistency when it comes to JavaScript in browsers, but this is one thing that they all agree on. They're all gonna stop parsing the page and rendering the page when they reach a synchronous script. So, I don't know about you, but, I don't like that, and I think it's kind of a bad thing. So here's a perfect example of this. I'm at businessinsider.com, and the page is blank. And depending on what browser I'm in, it's going to stay blank for 20 to 120 seconds, right? Now, I don't know about you, but I think this is a failure. Can you imagine if there was a web server, a back-end server, that took 20 to 120 seconds before it started issuing a response? Pagers would be going off like gangbusters. How many pagers go off when this happens on the front end? I'll bet it's none. And that's a more complex answer than you might think, because you might have some sort of monitor that is telling you if a page is really, really slow. And the typical way of doing that is what we call RUM, real user measurements or monitoring, where you'll put some JavaScript in the page, and when the window onload fires, that JavaScript will send back an image beacon. It will basically make a request to your server, and it will say, oh, this user on this page just loaded the page, and it took 120 seconds to load, or 20 seconds to load, or 7 seconds to load.